My fellow Americans, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. I'm delighted to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you would like to be on the program, if you text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, you can get the live stream, the podcast, the show notes, everything. Now, one note. Charlie, it's his birthday weekend. I will allow him a couple of days off. The result is that Philip, who probably should be listening right now since it's his day job, is in charge of the podcast. So if the podcast does not go up immediately on time the way Charlie would, that's why. No hate mail, please. You'd be amazed. Now, of course, y'all are listening live, and the problem is that the people, like at 3:45 today, if it's not up, I'm going to start getting emails. Where's the podcast? Where's the podcast? You should be listening live on your local radio station. However, we haven't expanded everywhere yet. We're getting close to world domination. We're not there yet, so you may be in a market where we're not there yet. One of those markets is Aurora, Colorado, where a whole lot of people have emailed me, and I can tell you're listening because I see how many people a day listen on the live stream, and there are a lot in Colorado. They're like, have you heard about the Brazilian gang, TDA, Tren de Aragua? It's a gang that has allegedly taken over parts of the city. Started looking online, and there are a whole lot of newspaper articles about it. Now, side note, here is one of my concerns. When I look and see the stories, I see a bunch of right-wing websites talking about the Venezuelan gang that's taken over Aurora, Colorado. When I don't see any mainstream news outlets like the New York Times and others covering it, my first thought is, well, they don't want to make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris look bad. However, then I turn to local media, and here's what I know about local media. Local media tends to be more conservative than national media. Not all local media, but most local media tends to lean to the right. The local anchors and stuff have been in the communities. They tend to be a little more conservative. And I reached out to, because I do regular appearances on the big conservative talk station out in Denver. So I reached out to the conservative host out there, and I said, man, what's the deal with this? He says, it's a big story, and the locals are playing it down. He says, here are the facts. There is a troubled apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado. And as best anyone can tell, this gang has moved in, and they're all illegal aliens. And they've set up shop. The local government has helped place these people, not realizing they were gang members. And there's now this crime wave coming out of this apartment complex. But, he says, it is not, they haven't taken over the whole city. The city is not overwhelmed. The violence has gone up. He says the problem here is this. He says keep your focus here. He says the police are cracking down in Aurora. They're pretty conservative. They're not Denver. The problem is they've spilled over from Denver, and it's the failed policies in Denver, drug capital of America now, that is allowing this to happen, in addition to the lax illegal immigration crime. He says, please tell people nationwide that it is not reflective of Aurora. It is reflective of failed policies. So I synthesize all of that to say also, and he pointed out, that there's a member of the city council in Aurora, Danielle Jurinsky, who has been making the claims that this gang is overrunning Aurora. It has triggered the news story, and she went on Fox News to make this a big deal, saying it's unreal, it's unreal. Residents tell me they feel they're living in a third world country at this point. Here's where, and again, everybody's got their own narrative. The narrative is often these days more important than the truth. I try to ascertain the truth. Here is what I know to be true, based on talking to the conservative talk show hosts in that area. In fact, the guy I talked to lives in Aurora. He says, you should be very alarmed about this. It is not, contrary to the national reports, a takeover of the city. Here's the New York Post headline: Armed crew storms Colorado apartment building overrun by Venezuelan gang, spilling out from sanctuary city. Shocking video shows a crew of gun-wielding men storm through a Colorado apartment building reportedly overrun by a dangerous Venezuelan prison gang. The group of heavily armed men, including 3 with handguns and 1 with a rifle, enter the troubled apartment complex in the Denver suburb of Aurora and break into a unit. The footage was captured earlier this month, shortly before a shootout at the complex, The Edge at Lowry, severely injured 1 person and damaged multiple cars, according to a local news station. A separate clip taken at a different time showed 2 men bashing the lock of a unit with a tire iron inside the same housing complex. Recent crime at the building has left residents of The Edge on edge. It's been a nightmare. The couple said the violence began when a large number of migrants moved into the building. They used 5 locks on their apartment door from top to bottom, as well as a secure door security bar jammer. Every day when we come home, we have to do this. Every time we go outside to take out the garbage. Every time we go to bed at night, we have to keep like this so nobody can kick in the door. Their car was riddled with bullets after the shootout. This is becoming a problem in parts of the country. So, as you know, the worst job on planet Earth that I ever had, and it is probably the worst job, period, on planet Earth, was being a city councilman. Because it's a part-time job where you are on the clock all the time, and your neighbors yell at you when they forget to drag their trash to the curb and then demand that you call the garbage department and tell them to come pick up their trash because they were too lazy to do it like everybody else. It's a terrible job. I don't envy people on city council. And for those of you who think national politics is nasty, local politics is the nastiest. Here's what I learned, however, being on city council. When piles of migrants come into your city, the federal government gives money, and they can find residents in Section 8 housing. And a lot of apartment complexes in overbuilt areas, and Aurora is an overbuilt area, people move into very nice apartment complexes, and then the owner of the apartment complex, once everybody's moved in and has available housing, converts it to Section 8. Section 8 is subsidized government housing for the poor. And what's happening in parts of the country is that because the class of migrants who are out there are poorer than the American poor, the migrants get priority in some places because of their income level to move into this sort of housing. And the whole place goes downhill. There is an apartment complex near me, and it was a cutting-edge, fantastic, top-of-the-line, high-end apartment complex. But they overbuilt. And in overbuilding, they converted it to Section 8 housing, and there has been crime and drugs and shootings, you name it. And I hate to say that because you want housing for people who can't afford it. You want people to have shelter, have any social safety net. I am a conservative. I'm not a libertarian. I think it's a good thing to be able to take care of our poor. We'll be judged on how we take care of the widows, the orphans, the poor on the last day. But oftentimes crime comes with that. As people join gangs move in because the gangs take advantage of it, and that's what's happening here with this apartment complex. And the problem is this, and this is the public policy problem with the open borders that we have and the Biden administration's treatment of people from Venezuela. I have friends who are from Venezuela, and they fled. It wasn't Maduro at the time. It was Chavez. Great people, hard workers, huge Donald Trump fans, I might add. Trying to get citizenship. They're not going to get it before the election, but really, the husband really wanted to become a citizen so he could vote for Donald Trump in 2024. Also, by the way, he believes the election was stolen. Yes. Checks all the boxes for most of my listeners. He is a great guy, and man, his wife can cook. And they fled the violence. He had a white collar job in Venezuela, moved to the United States and actually started working as a janitor when he came, and has now worked his way back into a white-collar job. Just a phenomenal family. And telling me about the gangs in Venezuela. And one of the things he's been warning me about, and it's come to fruition, it's one of the things Donald Trump has talked about, is that Venezuela decided with our open borders policy to depopulate their prisons. Then this gets to the Donald Trump Hannibal Lecter remark that the media took him seriously on. When Donald Trump was talking about Hannibal Lecter, contrary to the media, he was trying to point out the people being let out of the prisons in Venezuela are the worst of the criminally insane and the worst of the violent people. And Venezuela put those people on planes to Mexico with directions on how to get to the American border, knowing that if they crossed the border, Joe Biden's administration was going to let them in. And what they do? They've come across the border and they've set up shop as gangs in this country. You've heard of MS-13. This Venezuelan gang is as bad and as violent and are drug traffickers. They're in Aurora, Colorado. Contrary to some of the more sensational reports, they haven't taken over the city, but they're taking over an apartment complex. People are trying to get out of their leases and move out. The police are battling them, and they're well-armed, violent gangs. This is one of the problems with Biden's policies. The media can lecture us on the decrease in violent crime, but a lot of the violent crime is more violent than it was. We may have less murders, but when the murders are decapitations, they're worse. Yes, it's bad enough that someone loses their life. To be tortured to death by a Venezuelan gang and then be decapitated and the head dropped off at the family is a pretty awful thing, you might imagine. And these are the sorts of things happening in parts of the United States. The MS-13 gang is a violent criminal gang. And then on top of that, you have prosecutors and local progressive law enforcement and local agencies that have abandoned the broken glass theory of enforcement of the law because they've decided it's too cruel. Rudy Giuliani used it in New York, and guess what? He wiped out crime in New York City with it. That's why these gangs are taking advantage of Section 8 housing and moving into places on government subsidy because they know that those sorts of apartments are ripe for the takeover. And it's happening all over the country. In fact, I was talking at the gathering to Georgia's Attorney General, Chris Carr, and he was saying that there are 159 counties in the state of Georgia, and that 157 of 159 reported gang violence in the last few years, and so he knew the other two were lying. In my city where I live, when I was on city council, before I got there, we had a mayor who abandoned the gang task force. And guess what? Gang violence went down to zero. There was no gang violence in the city because the mayor abandoned the gang task force that categorized gang crimes. Never mind the graffiti was increasing. Never mind the shootings were increasing. Never mind the robberies were increasing. No, it wasn't gangs because there was no gang task force to tell us that. The progressive strategy is see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Never mind the evil out there. Let's just not look at it. And that's happening around the country. Yes, progressives are right that this gang in Aurora, Colorado has not taken over the city. What they refuse to acknowledge, however, is that they shouldn't be there in the first place. And they're there because of the open borders of this administration, where the borders are Kamala Harris is now running for Joe Biden's second term, and she should be held accountable for these sorts of stories because she is the one who said she'd root out the root causes and instead was nowhere to be seen. And those root causes are now taking root in our American cities. Listener Angie called. She said I should make a point. She has lived in Section 8 housing for 30 years, and it's not all crime-infested. And that is a good point. There is some great Section 8 housing out there, and it's a worthy government program. Unfortunately, in a lot of urban areas in the country now, Section 8 housing is where the government is using to put in the illegal alien populations that have crossed into the country. Now, all of that related to this. Buddy of mine who's in law enforcement sent me this about this gang from Venezuela, Tren de Aragua, TDA. Here's what the DEA and Homeland Security are sending out publicly. It's a transnational criminal organization that began as a labor union. Working in Venezuelan rail yards in the mid to late 2000s. Funny how labor unions always go off the rails. TDA rapidly evolved into a gang that specializes in human trafficking, extreme violence, and extortion in the Aragua state of Venezuela. The foundation of the gang and its leadership is based in Venezuelan prisons and has expanded into Mexico, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Guatemala, and Bolivia. The gang is swiftly growing and ramping up recruiting measures to strengthen its presence in the United States. TDA is headed by Hector Rutherford Guerrero Flores, a.k.a. Nino Guerrero. His current whereabouts are unknown. TDA has continuously made efforts to expand its criminal enterprise into other countries. There are three major steps that are part of this expansion. One is the exploration phase. Gang members arrive to a new area via border crossings, migration routes, hotspots, or urban areas with notable Venezuelan populations. TDA members exploit migrants and maintain a low profile while conducting illicit activities. The penetration phase. TDA members enter local criminal economies with low barriers to entry. Then 3, the consolidation phase. TDA establishes routes in criminal economies, sets up a financial base, and builds criminal structures needed to maintain their illicit activities. This phase usually involves money laundering. The organization has shifted its focus to establish a presence in the United States. Open source information indicates they are in California, Illinois, Florida, New York, Nevada, and Texas, and suspected members may be involved in sex trafficking, human trafficking, kidnapping, organized retail crime, robberies, and documentary fraud. Michael Jordan is one of their symbols from the Air Jordan, the jumping man, and the symbol 23. They also use stars and clocks and crowns as symbols, and trains and tattoos. Interesting. Also, their presence has been detected in Georgia, now where I am. Fascinating information. Gwinnett County, Georgia, has seen their presence detected. Now, I want your presence at ericforhillsdale.com. You should be getting all of Hillsdale College's free information. Oh, it's completely free. They have an incredible podcast network with Larry Arnn and other guests. You learn all sorts of insight completely free. Your favorite podcast app, just look for Hillsdale Podcast Network. You can get Imprimus completely free. It is show prep for my mind. I've been getting it since I was in college, no, law school. Started getting it. It's free publication from the right when I was starved for conservative information. Started coming from Hillsdale. I've been getting it for free ever since. It's followed me to every address that I've lived at, and it's great. You can also take their free courses. All you have to do is go to ericforhillsdale.com today. You can find out about their courses. You can get Imprimus, again, completely free. It's been their mission since the 1800s to advance education for free in this country. Hillsdale College is great at it. They'd love to have you a part of it. Get their podcast, get Imprimus, get their free courses. They have great speakers, brilliant talent, high academic level. Hillsdale College. Go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. I want to tell you people a truth that probably is not going to be popular with some. There is no way on God's good earth I am getting my butt on an electric airplane. I'm just seeing the story that there's a company that is building a facility here in Georgia, and they've got partnerships with United, Southwest to create a route of air taxi. I am not. I saw it past a Tesla dead on the side of the road last night, which is rare because you rarely people have range fears. There is no way on God's good earth. Like maybe hybrid. You do the 787 has of course they had all the lithium battery problems, but still, no, I'm not getting on an electric airplane. I am not going to do it. You know, the cold temperatures up at 30,000 feet. You know what the cold does to I'm just, nope. That is a big nope for me. I have no desire. I am sure, I've got a insurance rider for my job because if I die, the whole business goes belly up. And there are all sorts of things I can't, I've gotten out of climbing ladders. Cleaning the gutters. Nope, can't do it, sweetheart. We've got to hire out because I am not allowed to climb a ladder more than so many feet off the ground. Single engine turbo prop planes. Nope, not allowed. Sorry, can't do it. Very specific stuff. Can't fly in certain planes with other people on my team. And I will put in there no electric planes for me. Absolutely not. All right, I got to move on to other things. But first, I want to talk to Brittany, who's been waiting patiently. Welcome to the show, Brittany. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you for taking my call. I just kind of wanted to, make a comment about this Venezuelan gang situation that you're talking about because I am a 25-year law enforcement spouse. My husband, the department that he used to work for, he retired last year, thank God. But during the same election cycle, when Biden was elected, his department had a new sheriff elected, and one of the very first things that he did as running as a Democrat was get rid of their ICE immigration program. And almost immediately he canceled that, which basically meant that anyone that was arrested, instead of going through then the deportation process, was allowed to be re-released into the community. And I have said to my husband multiple times, because I feel like I've read that happening around the country, that it just kind of felt like a playbook was sent out among the Democrats, like, we're going to open the borders, so now it's going to be really easy for you guys to just re-release these people if you happen to arrest them under any circumstances. And so it just all makes sense to me, unfortunately, that now we've got foreign gangs running amok here because they don't have to go through the deportation process anymore like they used to.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I'm thank you for calling and appreciate your husband's service and also you as a spouse of someone who has served the community and the stress I know you got to go through just with your husband out there. I wish people could understand that these progressive policies don't make any of us safer. They actually do allow these sorts of situations to fester. It's just it's sad to think about. Brittany, thank you again for calling. The spillover effect of these sorts of things of we're not going to deport these people. There are situations in this country where, we've had in the past with the mob and the mob investing in local politicians to steer policies to benefit the mob and the FBI having to crack down. It's no stretch to imagine some of these gangs could be doing the same thing. And the violence of these gangs, the Italian mob never was as ruthless and violent as these South American gangs with the things that they were terrible, awful. Just watch Godfather. But some of the things that these gangs do, I have a friend whose cousin was in Mexico for a wedding, and she was kidnapped by a gang. And they sent demands to the family to pay money, or they would begin mailing pieces of her home. And she, by the way, says she believed them. They drugged her with fentanyl so that she could not escape. And through various lapses in the behaviors of the gang members who were fighting with each other, the cousin realized she could hear airplanes. She could hear airplanes taking off and landing. And at some point figured it's either run or die. And she was able to escape. She had drugs in her system and realized she was at a warehouse at an airport and made it to the airport and was arrested for being on drugs and publicly indecent the way they had her dressed, and was arrested and taken to jail and had to explain her case. And thankfully the U.S. Embassy got involved and she was safe, but escaped. And they were very adamant that it wasn't anything personal, that this was how they made money, and they would begin sending fingers home. And she escaped, and thank God the U.S. Embassy was responsive. They were looking for her. They knew she was missing, had documented kidnapping. True story, by the way. True story within the last year. There's more to it that is not public in the story. But, yeah, the true story down in Mexico. These things are spilling over into this country. My buddy Chip Roy, who's been on the show regularly, congressman from Texas, has literally been there doing an interview with me on the phone from the border when Border Patrol has stopped vehicles with human trafficking victims in the trunk. This happened live on this radio program where he's there watching the scene, describing it, not making it up. For local sheriffs and local prosecutors to treat this stuff as if it's no big deal. Athens, Clark County, Georgia, I'm talking to you. The local prosecutor there is one of the Soros prosecutors, I think, super, super progressive. It's where Laken Riley was murdered by an illegal alien because the local public officials there turned a blind eye to illegal aliens, said they weren't going to cooperate with ICE, and Laken Riley's dead. And the mayor of that county consolidated government had the audacity to claim it's not a sanctuary city when it is. The progressives turned Athens, Clark County, Georgia into a sanctuary city, turned a blind eye to ICE claims trying to get people rounded back up and deported. And Laken Riley was murdered as a result of the local government's policies. And the prosecutor there has pretended to be tough on crime and isn't. There's a write-in candidate or a nonpartisan candidate on the ballot, I think, for the general election there. It's infuriating to me, the soft on crime attitudes by progressives who, let's be real clear here, many of them actually mean well. I know it's hard for you to believe because of the fallout of the crime, but a lot of these people, they mean well and they think their policies will help. But at this point, there's enough data to show them, look, it's not helping. People are literally dying. Gangs are infesting our neighborhoods. They're taking over local populations. They're threatening locals. And many times the worst part of it is that the gangs target the illegal aliens who are here living peaceful existence in this country, doing the work in your lawns and in your neighborhood stores. And they target those people because those people are convinced I can't go to law enforcement for help because I'm an illegal alien and they'll deport me. And so the gang is able to fester and fundraise off of these people, and then it spills over into the greater community of legal citizens in this country. And it is because of the sheriffs and the prosecutors who get elected as progressives who claim they will change the situation. And the good, overwhelmingly white progressives vote for these people, and they think they're doing a good job for the non-white community, and it is the non-white community that is preyed upon by these gangs. It is the non-white community preyed upon by the criminals. It is the non-white community, and it's the good white wealthy progressives who vote for these progressive politicians thinking they're helping their local community, and they refuse to believe otherwise because it is a religious conviction for them. And to tell them to do otherwise is to tell them to renounce their faith, and it is a by-faith conviction for them that somehow they're helping these poor people. Jeff, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, Eric.
Hi there.
Hey, you touched on the fact that violent crime, at least as reported by the press, may be going down. And I just don't buy it. I think violent crime, it's being recategorized and plead down. I mean, Alvin Bragg up in New York City, something like 60% of the felons, they're pleading down to misdemeanors, 60%, just so they can get it through the court system, and it makes his prosecution rate look good.
Well, and don't remember as well that a lot of cities have stopped reporting to the FBI.
Oh, that's it. You're exact, including New York City and L.A.
Yes,
they don't report because they're not up to speed with the new software, and they said they probably won't be for another 3 years or so. I think I've read.
Yep.
Which is insane.
Yeah, they're
also,
fabricating
so
this stuff.
many of the violent crimes now are committed by juveniles. And I don't know if that's getting reported the same way, or they're probably just pleading out or to nonviolent crime.
Yeah, yes, so I think it's classified differently as juvenile crime too.
Yes. So I think the rate of violent crime has gone way, way up. And I'm from Atlanta. I mean, a 16-year-old just shot 3 men to death a couple of days ago.
Good grief.
It's just gone way, way up. I mean, just reading the stuff in the well, not the papers, but on the internet every day. I mean, it's crazy. I just don't believe the statistics. I don't believe the FBI. I don't trust the FBI to report it. I think they have the same consultant that he'll report violent crime in New York and LA, but he's extrapolating it.
So the media, Jeff, let me let you go there. I appreciate the phone call. The media has done a job for the Democrats trying to debunk the crime wave information in this country. Again, it's very much like the recession and the economy. They don't want you to believe your lived experience. They want you to believe the data. Well, remember, the data on jobs was revised down by 818,000 jobs created, and they don't want to revisit that. They don't want to point that out. It's the same way with crime. Never mind that New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, Seattle, St. Louis, Dallas, and Baltimore. Baltimore is a big one, in D.C. They've changed the computer software that the FBI uses. Cities are not mandated to use the new system. They've just stopped reporting. And these cities themselves are saying that, well, they've reduced crime. The problem is you've got a lot of progressive DAs in these areas who are booting criminals and dropping charges and revising charges down. And so they can say, look, we're basing this on charged crimes, and these crimes aren't charged, therefore crime is down. They're just stacking the deck to claim a situation is better than it is. But you all know. Now, have there been improvements? Yes. So I've told you the story before. When I'm in Atlanta overnight, I stay at a particular hotel in Buckhead. Buckhead is an area that tried to separate itself from the city of Atlanta in large part because of crime. And the hotel that I'm at, the guy at the door would very frequently caution me not to go out after night, saying it wasn't safe. Now they're okay. The situation has resolved itself. Wildly, the new mayor of Atlanta, Mayor Dawkins, actually came into office and told the police, why don't you actually police? And surprise, crime went down when the police realized they had a mayor who wouldn't make them the fall guy. The police actually got engaged. And it has definitely fixed the crime issue. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. There's still crime in Atlanta. There's still carjackings. There's still violence. Just yesterday, there was a story at a high-end apartment building in Buckhead where it looks like a murder-suicide. These things have happened. Not going to get rid of it. I mean, it's been happening since Cain and Abel. But at the same time, having a stepped-up police presence with a mayor that has their back has made a difference. And in some of these communities, local law enforcement knows the local elected officials don't have their back, and they'll be scapegoated. And they're scared to police, and there's a reduction in police. And also the gangs of violence has gone up. And the local politicians just rigged the books to pretend it's not happening. It's not good. You know, Americans for Prosperity has actually been documenting a lot of this stuff, too, on how progressive prosecutors are refusing to prosecute crimes and rigging it so it doesn't look like crime is out of hand. You can go to AmericansForProsperity.org and find out more. They've got chapters in almost every state now. Americans for Prosperity would love to have you on their side as an activist. They will teach you how to go door to door. They'll teach you how to make persuasive cases for common sense conservatism to your local government, your school board, your state government, how to advocate for school choice and school reform. You know, Americans for Prosperity was very big in the state of Georgia pushing school reform, and same in Texas, where they've been very active in fighting for school choice. And guess what? The Speaker of the House in Texas has now announced he will make school choice his number one priority, just like the governor and the Senate president have. Looks like it's going to get passed in Texas. Americans for Prosperity played a big role in that. Around the country, they'd love to have you involved with them. Go to AmericansForProsperity.org. AmericansForProsperity.org. Learn to be a great, effective conservative activist. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Delighted to have you with me. It is too late to take phone calls. Yes, the Tour Championship is taking place at East Lake Golf Course, a golf course that has flummoxed Scotty Scheffler, who is tied for 13th place right now with Wyndham Clark, Colin Morikawa as well. This course has flummoxed him. They've completely redone it, so maybe it'll help him. Justin Thomas is in second place right now. Now, of course, this plays out until Sunday. I'm going. My favorite place to go relax by myself is called Barnsley Gardens. It's in North Georgia, and my family loves to go as well. But for Christmas last year, they gave me, like, my Christmas present was 3 days guilt-free. Go by yourself, play golf at Barnsley. And I tried to cash it in on them a couple of weeks ago, and turned out it was their member guest golf tournament, so I couldn't play golf. So this coming weekend, not Labor Day, next weekend, I guess it actually is, I'm going to go hang out for a weekend and play golf and smoke cigars and not have to take care of family, and it's going to be fantastic. And I'm a terrible golfer, but I am getting better. However, I noticed someone commented the other day on social media that probably the greatest misconception the average person has is that they could compete against a professional in sports. And I think a lot of people probably think that I'm good at baseball or golf. A buddy of mine who's a very good golfer, scratch golfer, like I don't think he's just that good, played against one of the professional golfers who is there at East Lake for this Tour Championship about 7-8 months ago. Was convinced. In fact, I've got the text message from him where he says, I'm so good now at golf, I could be on the PGA Tour. I am regularly off the tee 300 yards, which is really good. That is professional golf caliber. Played against a professional who's not even in the top 20 in the country. Cleaned his clock and took all of his money. Cleaned his clock, took all of his money. Same guy happened to wind up playing a course where he got paired with Scotty Scheffler. Said it was just a night and day. He realized that he is not competent to play golf. He doesn't like to play against me because I'm that bad. He wants to play against really good people. And he realized how bad he was playing against professionals who play this regularly. I wish I could go watch. I don't have tickets for tours, and I don't have time. It's going to be traveling this weekend. But the older I get, and the more that I actually enjoy going. And so my idea of playing golf is I hang out with buddies, have a cigar, and we're out in nature. I'm not good. There's no expectation that they'll be good, and we can just enjoy each other's company, because men in particular tend to isolate, and we don't go hang out with each other. We have other jobs and families first, so playing golf is a great way to say we're going to go get out of the house. I've got some friends I'm going to play with next weekend, and it's basically families are out of town. I'm by myself. We can go hit golf balls and enjoy each other's company and have a few cigars and a few drinks and just enjoy it. We're terrible golfers, but we enjoy playing. It is nice to finally have a midlife hobby, because I'm such a be by myself person too, hang out with my family. I personally though, I really love to play golf by myself. The only bad part about it is I'm actually pretty good when I play by myself. I'm not kidding. I've got the little tracker now so I can prove that when I'm by myself, I'm actually pretty good at golf. The moment I get with a person though, golf goes down the drain. I'm embarrassed by my game. Anyway, you guys listening, I know some of you are. Y'all have fun at East Lake. Good luck.